Hey, it's Hugh Hewitt, and when I want to know what's going on with the Cavs, the Browns, and the Tribe, I tune into Sports Fix.
Sports Fix listeners, like us on Facebook today. Facebook.com/The Sports Fix.
Hey guys, J-Rocc here from the Sports Fix, and we always talking about using our platform to try to help the world and the society we live in, and everywhere I go and everywhere we go, bullying is one of the problems in today's society. There's nothing worse than any person, big or small, strong or weak, adult or child, feeling picked on, pushed around, vulnerable, and victimized at the hands of a bully. Change comes one person at a time, and my good friends at No Such Thing as a Bully are working on skills and techniques and ways that we can all change and make things better for everyone. Find out more at nosuchthingasabully.com.
Portions of the Sports Fix brought to you by Harry Buffalo. Catch every UFC pay-per-view live in full HD at Harry Buffalo North Olmsted, just outside Great Northern Mall. Harry Buffalo. Join the herd.
Live in Ohio, it's time to get your fix. The Sports Fix.
And off we go. Wow. I don't know about you. I'm running on coffee, jet fueled with adrenaline here. Been up, I think about 4 hours of sleep or so, something like that. I was up first thing in the morning anyway today, but I was up late watching the greatest game in the history of the Cleveland Cavaliers franchise. I say that unequivocally to start today's show. As, boy, you know what we're talking about today. The Cleveland Cavaliers, the Golden State Warriors, an unbelievable first two games to the NBA Finals. Never before in NBA Finals history has Game 1 and Game 2 both gone to overtime. I'm telling you. We're going to get into it here in just a minute, but I'm telling you, them Warriors are in trouble coming back to Cleveland because the next time they stand on their home floor, they're going to be facing a 3-1 deficit, staring down the barrel of elimination because the Cavaliers, without Kyrie Irving, play a different kind of basketball. But if there's one thing that you can say what you want about the Cavs and how they do offensively, you have seen in games 1 and 2 what we said a lot of, especially I'm telling you, I hammered on this heading into the series. The Cavaliers know how to defend the Golden State Warriors, and they showed that in Game 1 and in spades in Game 2. And that trends very well for the Cavaliers and very poorly for the Golden State Warriors. Cleveland is going to be on fire this week, literally, well, at least figuratively, and it's going to be an awesome experience as Games 3 and 4 hosted here at the Q, and with everything against them. Look, I'm going to go this way for just a minute before we get into the X's and O's and a little more broken down. I'm going to open the phones and all of that. But with everything against them, listen, if you don't have a rooting interest against the Cleveland Cavaliers, then you're a Cleveland Cavaliers fan at this point. If you're a national viewer watching this thing without a blatant rooting interest, because it was obvious to people. I mean, you know us, we have a large social media following, so we talk to and hear from and interact with a lot of people during live games and right after games and all of that. And brother, people that have no rooting interest in the Cavaliers whatsoever were talking to me last night about how poorly that game was officiated on both sides. But boy, did it not feel that it was anything and everything being done to stop the Cleveland Cavaliers from pulling that thing off last night, and it made it even the more amazing. I mean, I think all of Cleveland and the fan base both joined in with LeBron in that scream after the buzzer went off in pure just animalistic release at finally finishing that thing, because it seemed like they were not going to let us get out of there with the victory. What a hard-fought game it was. What an unbelievable first two games to the NBA Finals. And hey, guys, The Cleveland Cavaliers are now, hey, they're not done, but they are now officially closer to an NBA title than any team in franchise history, as they've now won their first NBA Finals game. Of course, the only other time they were there, we know what happened. It was a clean sweep at the hand of San Antonio. They have now won an NBA Finals game for the first time in franchise history. For the Golden State Warriors, there's in front of cameras last night saying, we still feel good about ourselves. We still feel good about winning this series, because they're convincing themselves. Because the fact that the Cavaliers, as shorthanded as they are, and dealing with what they dealt with, are not coming back to Cleveland down 0-2, and they're a bounce of the ball here and there, a bad traveling call away from coming back up 2-0 in a building where nobody wins. Yeah, this series is playing out in the favor of the Cleveland Cavaliers, and we're going to get into all of that, you guys, here. Good, bad, and ugly. Dan Wismar from Everybody Hates Cleveland. I've already got the phones blowing up. We're going to do the thing, talking Cavs and Warriors, and already what has been the most incredible games 1 and 2. Again, no series in NBA Finals history has had both of the first 2 games go to overtime. What's coming next in Cleveland here for 3 and 4? Let's do it and talk about it. We'll talk Tribe and so much more. A triple crown for the first time in decades, over a lot of things over the weekend. Let's do the Sports Fix. Welcome in, you guys. I am your host, the Big Daddy, here on the microphone. J-Rocc, Jerry Myers, doing the thing live across the Sports Fix Radio Network. Welcome in, each and every one of you listening live, perhaps on TuneIn and TuneIn's radio app there, worldwide, digital, mobile apps all over the place, on Spreaker and Mixler, or maybe you're listening to us live on our home base, thesportsfix.net, all places to catch the show live every time it's on the air, noon, weekdays here across the Sports Fix Radio Network. Many of you as well listening on digital delay on so many different sites. Shout out to you guys around the world, thousands of you enjoying the show on iHeartRadio, on iTunes, on Stitcher Radio, on so many different podcast formats. Thank you guys for doing the thing, being here, and getting your fix each and every day. Let's do it, man. Let's open up the phones, because when I say get your fix, I don't just mean listen to me. Let's do the thing. Be a part of the show. 216-539-7535. 216-539-7535. Can't get to the phone. Listening to the show on your phone, as so many of you do. Facebook it. Tweet us. Facebook.com/thesportsfix. Tweet with us at The Sports Fix CLE. Email us, thesportsfix@AOL.com. Facebook.com/The Sports Fix. Tweet with us at The Sports Fix CLE. Email us, thesportsfix@AOL.com. As I said, I've got calls here in the box. We're going to get to you guys here in just a minute, but I want to kind of pick up where I started off, recapping for people that, I don't know, may have went to sleep early last night or be under a rock, or however you want to look at it. The Cleveland Cavaliers once again coming away with a big overtime victory last night. And I talked about it in the first game. Of course, last night, final score in overtime, 95-93. But I talked about it in the first game, the fact that at regulation, the Warriors under 100 points. I mean, they were playing the Cavaliers game even more so yesterday. The Cavaliers showed that defense, that ability to restrict what you like to do. There's a reason that they completely decimated the offensive attack of every team that they played in the playoffs, not just because the East is weak, not just because it was all a bunch of guys that were just bad teams, and then there's LeBron and they just steamrolled through. And no, it's because the Cavaliers are the best defensive team in the NBA, and once again they showed it. They showed it in game 1. Everybody put way too much emphasis on the 2.5-minute stretch to end overtime at the end of game 1, and not on everything else. I think after game 2, it's now become clear that the Warriors are not just missing open shots, as much as people want to say that. Boy, last night, one of the things many of you guys hit me up with was just the ABC announcers are the worst when it comes. They could explain every foul call against the Cavs, everything that goes the Cavs' way. Here's Jeff Van Gundy or Jalen Rose or somebody to jump in and tell you why it was a bad call. I mean, they're just terrible terrible. But they are, guys. I'm not even being a homer with that, man. It makes you sick to listen to it sometimes. But the Cavaliers have defensively had their way in the first two games. This is at the Oracle Arena, where nobody beats the Warriors, where they're at full strength, and the Cavs came in weak, were weakened at the end of game one, and everybody just roasted them on a spit and called them dead and buried. Before game two, did you guys hear Jalen Rose, the guy who predicted the Warriors in 5 before game one? He said, I've got to revise my prediction. It's going to take a miracle effort for the Cavs not to get swept in 4 straight games now, and proceeded to eat crow. So many of these guys, these so-called experts, I said all along, what are they seeing that some of us are not seeing? Because defensively, the Cavs are able to dictate things to the Golden State Warriors, and I didn't think that it was the same in reverse. And the Cavs are playing their style of basketball, and they won their style of basketball in game two and were moments away from coming away 2-0 coming out of that. And I know that, hey, if you're Golden State, you can find ways to say, oh, well, we were moments away. That's fine. But realistically, that's a much, much more positive statement coming out of the Cavs in the shape that they're in the position that they're in with everything, and losing Kyrie, and not just losing him, because we know they've played without him, and that's why I thought that it wouldn't be that big of an adjustment, because they're kind of used to doing this already. The Cavaliers have done this without Kyrie, but it's the emotional momentum, the way that ended, and the way you then got double sucker punched in overtime because you lost your guy and lost the game in such an ugly way. It's like everything just snowballed for about 2.5 minutes or so there at the end of the game. And to see, A, the way they bounced back from that, B, the way they played the game, C, David Blatt brought this up, same position, look at the difference, the way this team attacked in overtime compared to the way they played overtime in game one. All along in the playoffs, I've said that the Cavs remind me of a chameleon. They have an ability to adapt from game to game, to do whatever is necessary to come out with the win, and we've seen them continue to do that here. That's what's going to make them the NBA champions. The most unlikely, I think, NBA champions in history, because when this story plays out, brother, that's the way Cleveland deserves to win it, because you wouldn't have it any other way. But there's still a lot of games to go. There's still 3 more victories needed. This is now a best-of-5 series with 3 of the 5 games to be held right here in Cleveland, starting tomorrow with Game 2. Cavs with a lot of work to be done, but I'm telling you, you could feel the momentum coming out of Golden State. It's all with the broken, busted Cleveland Cavaliers. And if I'm the Golden State Warriors, I'm walking out of there. And you could hear Curry yesterday. He said it wasn't just us. He said, man, obviously they're showing us something. They're doing something to us that nobody else has been able to do defensively. And we're going to have to figure that out. And if they don't, they're coming back home down 3-1 in this series. Let's talk about that and more with you guys. As a matter of fact, I'm going to go to the phone and I'm going to give it back to you guys to kick things off. Caller, we're talking Cavs, Warriors, NBA Finals. You are first on the Sports Fix.
Good morning, J-Rocc.
Good morning, my buddy Bruce. How you doing?
Hey, I'm doing great, actually.
You should be. Hey, first off, hey, agree or disagree? Greatest game in Cavaliers history last night.
Oh, without a doubt, without a doubt. I mean,
absolutely.
First final win in our history speaks for itself.
But not just that. I mean, the game. They tried to run away early. The Warriors tried to put the hammer down, and they did. And that's why I think they know they're in trouble. Because if you notice, they got a double-digit lead early on the Cavs. They called a timeout, and then they came out of the timeout, and they tried to attack. I looked at the people that I was watching the game with, and I said, boy, they're trying to break the Cavs right here. And instead, the Cavs weathered. They came back and really controlled the entire game all the way through. I think at that moment, the Warriors may have realized that they had their opportunity and could not even come close to closing the door, and I think that they're now realizing what they're up against.
Well, the Cavs went up by 11. We went on that 18-2 run, and that we never trailed after that until the fourth quarter.
Matter of fact, you bring up a good point talking about that. That was something that I was going to bring up here a little bit at some point during the conversation. Do you guys realize that and this is the Cavs in the shape they're in, but do you realize that in the first two games, in the first, 96 minutes of basketball, the Golden State Warriors have only led for 26 minutes in the entire series so far? That says volumes right there, and they were at home, and they're at full strength compared to what we know is the situation with the Cavaliers. I mean, that speaks volumes to the fact that the Cavaliers have controlled the majority of the first two games.
Well, somewhere Mike Brown is sitting in his recliner smiling his ass off because, this is what he was preaching the whole time he was here, was how to play defense. And they've been pretty much, take away Dellavedova last night, who locked down. But, I mean, they've been playing, outstanding defense, and that's what it's going to take to win this.
Unbelievable defense. I mean, this is Vice-like. And you know what? And of course, I'm every bit as much, while he was gone, the guy that didn't like LeBron either. And so many people, not just people in Cleveland, nationally, when he had his bad games in the playoffs or whatever, people would go, look at, and they would point it out. And I say, boy, imagine if LeBron, I mean, do you know that Steph Curry yesterday had the third worst game, field goal percentage-wise, by a reigning MVP in the NBA Finals? I mean, he was record bad in yesterday's game, and that's okay. That's okay, and I'm not saying that doesn't happen, but I will say that there's nowhere near as many Steph Curry memes out there today as there would be had it been LeBron, And, hey, I'm every bit as guilty of making the cramping jokes and all that stuff, too, at the time. But my point being is, boy, ain't it different the way they look at Steph Curry and that. I mean, he had a record bad. He was up there with John Starks for the most missed three-pointers in an NBA Finals games. He set the record.
Yeah, he was definitely throwing some bricks last night. He could have built a house with that.
And some air balls, too. I mean, and you gotta, I love that Curry gave credit, as I said this a few minutes ago. He said something that I think a lot of people brushed over last night in his press conference, which was, somebody tried to leave him the opening of just them not hitting all of their shots. And he said, obviously, after two games here, they're doing something to us. They've seen something that nobody else has done or that nobody else has figured out, and we need to figure out what that is here really quick, because I can tell, and I think you guys can watching, the Golden State Warriors are a bit confused and frustrated by the way the Cavs are defending them, and it's nothing pretty. They're just defending them by putting a man in everybody's chest and just absolutely making them work extremely hard for everything.
Okay, a couple of things here. You brought up earlier about the officiating last night.
Oh, was it awful or what?
Two things come to mind right off the bat. One, when Curry jumped into J.R. Smith and he fouled out.
Jumped into him. Unbelievable.
Right. I think the rules should be changed that if you initiate the contact, then you're the guilty party.
100% agree. That was on my list of plays that I wanted to bring up. And by the way, while we're mentioning that, the Hack-a-Tristan thing, when you're allowed to foul away from the ball like that, and I just, whether it's Hack-a-Shaq, Hack-a-Tristan, DeAndre Jordan, whatever it is, that, okay, you want to foul down low with 20 seconds left and put the bad guy on the line, I get that. But when you've got a gap of 90 seconds until there's the 2 minute, I just don't like that 2 minute where if you do it before the 2 minute warning, then it's foul shots from off the ball instead of it being the technical within where it works out with more punishment. And they were just able to take, and luckily Tristan knocked a couple, but I'm with you there. That's another thing I dislike. But yeah, how is he going to jump into that? And I know where you're going next. I'm sure you're probably going with Green pulling down LeBron on the tip
off.
And then they give them the ball and almost handed them the game on that play right there.
Okay, now here's my philosophy. I think there should be an official, not a referee on the court, but an official that sits in press row. Whenever you complain, kind of like the instant replay in baseball,
right,
or the challenge.
Yeah.
Okay, you're allowed one challenge. If you're wrong, the other team shoots a free throw. That would eliminate all this whining and crying, because
really,
obviously
though,
LeBron was slapped around the neck.
Yeah, but
you know what? Slapped in the nose.
You only get one.
He was slapped on the wrist.
We would have needed 10 of them last night because, like you said, they tried to break his nose on one play. One play, they just wrapped him up. I'm like, how are any of these not, like, blatant fouls here, man? I mean, it was unbelievable. Trust me, I am with you. And this is not – hey, first off, it's not even just a Cleveland thing. The fans in the building last night were just assaulting the refs with the "you suck" chants for the referees because even they knew – both teams were getting hosed. And I'll tell you that. Golden State had a couple bad ones too, but there were way more against the Cavs. And the ones against the Cavs were all in crucial moments of the game where I have to give LeBron James credit for keeping his cool and David Blatt at the end of that game and at overtime because it would have been David Blatt, to me, came dangerously close to getting a technical in overtime, and I wouldn't have blamed him if he did, because at what point do you not look at the officials and go, are you just handing this game to the Warriors? When Thompson grabbed JR's jersey and he went after the referee, like, you didn't, I can't believe you didn't see that, and I believe he got a technical, but they both got a technical. Smith. They both got a technical. It was a double tech on that, yeah. Right. But, I mean, the thing of it was it was obvious that he had a hold of his jersey and wasn't letting him go for the rebound. There was so many. I mean, how about when Curry, or was it Curry with Dellavedova there right at the end of regulation, and they practically, took his legs out there going out of bounds. And, I mean, just so many things. And he took the ref out. I know, and the ref, yeah. There's so many of them where you just look and go this, and but look, think about it, Bruce. And guys, I know if you're a national guy listening, you're thinking, oh, here goes the Cleveland guys whining. But think back in the playoffs. We've said this for each round, and I'm sticking to my theory that it won't be until next year. Now that the Cavs have gone through a playoff run, next year the refs will give them respect and they will give them more calls in the playoffs. But I think back to Joakim Noah and him just assaulting LeBron under the rim at the end of that one game there back in the Chicago series and the no call. It doesn't matter. Every round the Cavs have not gotten the calls. And I do believe that it's because whether it's fair or not, I think the officials are forcing the Cavs to earn it because last year they won 30 games and this year they're in the NBA Finals, and they want whatever. So I don't think we're going to get calls we're not going to get them in Cleveland. I don't think we're going to get the calls when it comes here to Cleveland. I think that this series is just going to continue to be poorly officiated. I don't know about your solution. If you're going to call ticky-tack fouls, or if you're just going to let them play, let me go there. If you're just going to let them play, let them play. Well, but then it gets ugly. At the end, yeah, but then when the game's on the line, if you're going to start calling every little thing that happens, it's either one way or the other. It's like kind of like an inside pitch or the outside of the plate. You can't have both. And that's what the refs were doing last night. And I agree with you there to a point. I mean, I think you let certain things get a little more physical, but the stuff that they were letting happen to me walks the line of, some of those are dangerous. I mean, again, say what you want, but I'm just saying LeBron James is one of the reasons that people are spending 5 figures on front row tickets for these games and stuff like that. You let this become the Wild West and you watch him or Steph Curry get taken out for the series, you know what I mean? You lose a whole lot of luster. I mean, exactly. And the thing of it is that, I thought if you went for a guy's head, it was an automatic flagrant one. I know. I mean, he had him around the neck. I agree. That the fact that they called that a common foul after they reviewed it, I just could not believe it. Same with the one where they bashed LeBron in the nose, and I was pretty sure that he broke his nose because when they slowed down the replay, you could actually see LeBron's nose move after it was hit. You could tell that it was hit hard and it dislodged itself from its place. And when they slowed it down, you could actually see him like swinging his arm in the downward motion, like it would be I don't know what you call it in wrestling, but I agree a forearm smash. I agree with you. To the nose. You know what? The Warriors have found themselves trying to play the Cavs game, and they cannot do it. We're more physical than they are, and we're playing. I'm telling you, talk to me. We can talk about the officials till we're blue in the face, and I'm sure Dan will too. But again, I go back to the defense of the Cavaliers, just absolutely frustrating the Golden State Warriors. And heading into this series, that was my key prediction, was that is why the Cavs were going to win this series in 5, and I'm sticking with it. I think the Cavs win this thing in 5, man. I really do believe that the entire complexion of this series changes in the next 2 days, or in the next 2 games when it comes back to Cleveland, because I believe that we've seen in 2 games that it's not a fluke. The Cavs are able to defend the Golden State Warriors. Whatever it is frustrating the Warriors there, and I think that bodes very, very well heading back to Cleveland.
Okay, one more thing.
What do you think, Bruce? I mean, it's not just me. What do you think? What do you think about that?
Oh, I said the Cavs in 6 from the start. I thought we'd win the next 2 at home, and then we'd lose the one back in Golden State, and then we'd come home and win it at home.
And by the way, let me throw a couple of things out there for people. Yesterday, which I thought this was an amazing stat, which just shows that when a team in general is motivated, or when a leader is motivated, what they can do. Yesterday made 9-0 for LeBron James teams when down 1-0 in the series to win Game 2. He's now
as a matter of fact, that's one of the things I was going to bring up, is
Absolutely.
That he got his 2 rings. He was down 1-0.
Well, not just that. It's just 8 times, now 9 after last night. He was down 1-0 to start the series, and every single game he has evened the series back at 1, which I think is a pretty amazing stat there. Here's some things talking about the importance of Game 3 in a tied NBA Finals. 84% of the time, 37 times, the NBA Finals have been tied at 1. The winner of Game 3 is 31-6 when they win Game 3 of the NBA Finals, which is crucial. Here's another stat that is just lays into the fact that I think this dynamic changes after the next 2 games in Cleveland. Cavs 26-2 in their last 28 games in Cleveland, and I think that they're truly going to grab a chokehold on this series in the next 72 or so hours.
Well, I'd be willing to go out on the limb and say the team that wins Game 3 will win it.
Absolutely. I would agree with that, too.
All right, one more thing. LeBron's press conference after the game last night, when they asked him about, winning the game and then coming home.
Yeah.
Did you happen to catch how, I don't know, like for the first time since I have been watching LeBron, he was kind of emotional. He couldn't wait to get home. He wanted to do it for the city, for the team, for, the fans around the world. He got kind of, I don't want to say choked up, but you could hear it in his voice a little bit.
And you know what? There's a combination of things at work there, Bruce, and I was going to get into this a little bit too, but I truly believe it won't be talked about until after the series is over, but there is no doubt in my mind that LeBron knows, and he's not thinking of it this way because you got to win one game at a time, but to win, had all of the injuries not happened, it still would have been pretty special to come back home and win one here. It probably would have been tied with the first ring that he ever won as the most important ones to him. And I'm just saying because the first one is important, even though I know people are like, oh, well, he won that in Miami. But that will definitely be that. Now, when you take into consideration this season and the way it's went from losing Anderson Varejao and then just continuing all the way through the back against the wall, the bad luck. I mean, this is truly a snake-bitten team, but it's happened so much along the way that one of 2 things happen when teams run into hard luck, man. They fold or they get stronger. And this team, found strength and weakness. They found the ability to, I know the numbers, the strength in numbers is the gimmick for the catchphrase for the Warriors, but that is what the Cavs have become too. They've really truly learned how to take each of their skills, weave them in together. Obviously, hiding behind the main guy, LeBron James there, but they've become a true win as a team, do it all together team. I mean, it's an amazing story, and I think
just look at it this way. We lost 3/5 of our starters opening night.
And I think deep down inside, I'm not getting into the of all-time greatest individual, none of those arguments. But this, if the Cavaliers finish off a championship run with the way this went, especially losing Love and Irving permanently during the playoffs, and Irving coming during Game 1 of the NBA Finals against the one of the better statistical teams in NBA history, that will go down as one of the greatest championship runs in the history of all of sports. I truly believe that, and I think LeBron knows that there is a very special place for this individual run that these Cavs are having, and for him as an individual, if the Cavs can finish it off. And you have to agree with that. I mean, I dare anybody to pull out a story and go, yeah, this one's better, because you've got the hometown coming home, which is the easy, sappy, cheesy story. But then, hell, look at all the other storylines and all the things that have gone wrong. This team was the Cleveland team. They've had their Jim Jones moment since October. They've lost one guy after another, and you go, well, that's the one that's too much. Jonathan Knight, when I got the word about Kyrie the other day, it was about an hour before it broke in the public. I texted Jonathan Knight and I said, boy, Kyrie's out for the next 3 months, and he texted me, he goes, and there goes the ball game. And then that's just JK being realistic, because that was the latest Jim Jones moment for these Cavaliers was, well, that's the one that you could go, if only Kevin Love didn't get hurt, if only Kyrie didn't get hurt. But this damn team just stops and doesn't say if only. They just keep finding a way to win the next game, and that's going to be incredibly special. And tell me that you would have it any other way. And no other way.
Their slogan all along has been next man up, and you know, it's none more true than recently. I mean,
but everybody's slogan in sports nowadays is next man up. This is something that it transcends that, man. This is going to be one of the greatest stories in the history of professional sports when it's all said and done.
This could actually be the greatest playoff series or a final series ever. I mean, as far as both teams being, you know, so close to everybody, you know, each other in the stats, players, you know, breaking all the way down, rookie head coaches. I mean, this could go down as the greatest series in basketball history. And
we have a lot of basketball to play, but all I'm saying is if the Cavaliers are standing tall at the end of this thing, think back through sports, and I'm asking you guys to start thinking about this now, because we're going to be talking about it. Tell me some of the other champions that had their backs against the wall. I mean, I know there's other stories, but it's going to find me some more that compare to this one. Find me some more teams that were decimated by injuries, that traded half their roster at midseason, that had a rookie head coach and had a whole bunch of players that never did anything, and all of the 800 different storylines around the Cavs. And then show me a team, if you want to go to football, show me a team that lost their running back in the first round of the playoffs, and then lost their wide receiver in the championship game, and then lost their quarterback in the Super Bowl, and still kept playing and still won the Super Bowl. You know what I mean? Show me the team that has a story, assuming that the Cavaliers finish this, that can match it for overcoming an incredibly ridiculous set of circumstances. And like I said, would you expect a Cleveland championship to come any other way than the hardest way possible?
This is Cleveland. You got to remember that.
Right. It doesn't just not come easy, but it would have to come in the absolute hardest, most difficult way possible. You know?
Well, we still have LeBron, and that's the X factor, so
I'm telling you.
He said he's matured, and he's kind of proven that he has. And, you know, I mean, even like I was trying to say the other day, you know, like when they win, LeBron coached a great game, but when they lose, you know, it was Blatt's fault. You know, and that's coming from national media that watches 4 or 5 games a year, you know, and have no idea what's going on.
Look at these guys. You would think they would have done some homework on Dellavedova before the game. You know, still in the NBA Finals, some of these national media are getting caught by surprise after Game 6. You know, after Game 6 against Chicago, after seeing him step up 3 times here and guess what? The Cavs haven't lost when Delly has played the point guard in place of Kyrie now during the playoffs. So, but yet there's still national media that don't know who Delly is, and then they get surprised by him, you know? And that's why you don't listen to those guys, because they don't have the slightest clue what they're talking about, man. I mean...
No, not a bit. And
not a bit.
You know, that's just... No, but between the referees or the officials last night and the national media... You know, they tried to take away from what the Cavs were actually doing on the floor.
I know. That's what I was bringing up about Van Gundy and those guys, is it seemed like every call that went against the Cavs was a great call, and every call that went against the Warriors was a horrible call, and it just seemed like they were constantly taking the credit away from anything that the Cavs did. And
the Cavs were doing, right, exactly. I totally agree.
Yeah, and I'm glad you saw that. And I know other people out there saw it, because some of you guys were hitting me up during the game, sending messages. I checked it after the game, and I'm like, I agree with all of this. Yeah, it seemed like they could not quick enough take away whatever little shine from something that the Cavs may have just done, and it was driving me absolutely crazy. Same with Dwayne Wade in the pregame show. Hey, Dwayne Wade, I get it. You're salty that LeBron left and sent you to a 30-win season and all of that, but if you'd have listened to Dwayne Wade before the game, you'd have thought it was LeBron and 11 other guys all season long, and he kept saying things like, well, you know, in Miami, we kept having guys running all over the place. We were running good sets for LeBron. You know, these guys are kind of just standing around here, and it's like I'm sitting there going, man, get out of here, man, get out of here. You know what? You guys fell apart when Chris Bosh got hurt this year. What would you have done if Chris Bosh and Dwayne Wade and get out of here? Anyway, but I was listening to him, and just it was another personal agendas being pushed at the expense of Cleveland. The ABC crew is just garbage during the finals here. The way they talk
no
about
doubt about it. I mean, they know the teams that they watch, and that's anybody
and
else.
It's not the Cavs. It is not the Cavs, that's for sure.
All right, J-Rocc, I'm gonna let you go.
You got it, Bruce.
Let's keep this rolling. I mean, we got the momentum, we got home court advantage, so everything's in our favor, except for the players. I mean, we're still, you know, 2/5 of the team down, but you know, everybody else is stepping up, and that's the main thing. So
that's it, baby. All in,
That's it, all in.
Bruce, my man.
All right, I will talk to you later, J-Rocc.
You got it. Take care, my friend. All right, you guys, man, we went long in that opening segment. All right, we're gonna take a break. Catch it up, get you some news, and get Dan Wismar in. We're picking up right where we left off on the on the heels of the greatest game in Cavs franchise history, their first NBA Finals win, and on the eve of the Finals coming home. Man, it is going to be a madhouse. I'm telling you, you think that Oracle was hot? Wait until you see the Q tomorrow night. I mean, and rightfully so. The Cavaliers fighting with no end. Just... If you think I'm motivated and fired up today, damn right I am, and you should be too, because that's how a Cleveland team fights right there, man. And you give me a couple more games of that, win or lose, man. That's the way you put it down in the NBA Finals. Let's talk about that with Dan Wismar from Everybody Hates Cleveland. The referees clearly hate Cleveland in this series, and so do the national commentators, Jeff Van Gundy and all of those guys, Jalen Rose and all of them, man. But we don't. We love it, baby, and we're going to talk about it. Cavs, Warriors, an awesome first 2 games, and we're going to talk some Indians. Major roster shakeups coming. Chisenhall down, Ramirez down, Urshela coming up. How much farther behind is Lindor? All of that and more coming up after this break, after the news with Dan Wismar, coming up next.
You unlock this door with the key of imagination. Beyond it is another dimension. A dimension of sound. A dimension of mind. You're moving into a land of both shadow and substance, of things and ideas. You've just crossed over into...
The Sports Fix. We'll be right back.
Hey guys, before we go to the break, I want to talk to you a little bit again about our good friends at Harry Buffalo North Olmsted, the UFC, the Ultimate Fighting Championships, some of the hottest fights in the world today. Each and every one of their huge events, Harry Buffalo is one of the few places in Northeast Ohio you can go there and watch each and every UFC fight at the Harry Buffalo. And let me tell you, I've been there. The people are out the door. They are to the rafters. It is one of the craziest environments for some UFC fights. Wing Mondays, they've got great deals on wings and drinks, and every day of the week there's a different special, a different deal. And don't forget the Bison Burger, the unbelievable. It is the combination of a fantastic burger and eating healthy combined into one unbelievable sandwich. You have got to get a Bison Burger while you're there. So whatever you're looking for, whatever day of the week, Monday through Friday, Saturday, Sundays, there's something for you at the Harry Buffalo North Olmsted, just outside Great Northern Mall. Check them out today. Harry Buffalo, join the herd.
It's an addiction. The Sports Fix. We'll be right back.
How to be a great dad in 15 seconds. Bike ride, go fish, walk in the park, phone call, milkshake, play catch, picnic, fly a kite, tell jokes, laugh, talk, read a story, tell a story, bumper car, swing set, bowling, pillow fight, cut loose, stay tight. Whew. Because the smallest moments can have the biggest impact on a child's life. Take time to be a dad today. Call 877-4DAD-411 or visit fatherhood.gov. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the Ad Council.
Fantasy sports lovers, you put so much time, hard work, and effort into playing week to week that it quickly stops being a fantasy and starts getting real. And when the smoke clears, you want to show off those victories with a real prize.
I mean, a really real prize.
Nobody does that like Fantasy Jocks. The crew over at Fantasy Jocks have beautiful, high-quality, and heavy-duty championship belts, rings, trophies, and so much more for all your fantasy sports needs. There's literally only one place to go. FantasyJocks.com.
Business owners and professionals, do you want to take your business, your product, your team, your event to the next level? You want to advertise right here with the Sports Fix. Our listeners are among the most loyal listeners, terrestrial or internet. The Sports Fix universe is not only the radio show, but tens of thousands of fans on Facebook and Twitter. Email me, Jerry Myers, thesportsfix@AOL.com. That's thesportsfix@AOL.com. And let me help you swing for the fences and hit it out of the park right here on the Sports Fix.
Portions of the Sports Fix brought to you by Signs and Ship, the official printing source of the Sports Fix. Locations in Ohio, Pennsylvania, Virginia, and Florida. Find out more at signsandship.com.
News break.
Good morning, I'm Bob Picozzi. He played his college basketball only 15 miles from Oracle Arena. Cavaliers guard Matthew Dellavedova spent most of his Sunday night guarding Steph Curry. And the NBA's MVP made only 5 of his 23 shots in Golden State's 95-93 overtime loss to Cleveland. So the Cavaliers even the NBA Finals at 1. Dellavedova says he really didn't do anything special.
I don't think anyone can really stop Steph Curry. He can get his shot off pretty much whenever he wants and can get hot.
Cleveland, 8:30 Eastern Time on ABC TV and 8 o'clock on ESPN Radio. The Blackhawks are at NHL best 7-1 at home in the playoffs. Chicago will host Tampa Bay tonight, Game 3 Stanley Cup Final. That series tied at 1. U.S. women's soccer team has played Australia 24 times, and the Americans are 22-0 with 2 draws. Those two teams meet tonight in Winnipeg in the World Cup opener. One day after Massachusetts State Police said they were investigating an accident involving Brandon Spike's abandoned vehicle, the Patriots announced this morning they have released the linebacker.
This summer, stop watching the same old sports highlights and go to Buffalo Wild Wings. They're celebrating games from around the globe, highlighting can't-miss action from sports like soccer and rugby. Summer can be tough for a sports fan, but it doesn't have to be. Buffalo Wild Wings. Wings, beer, sports.
Hey everybody, this is Jerry the King Lawler from WWE, and you're listening to the Sports Fix.
Do we want to get right?
Welcome back to the Sports Fix Live. J-Rocc back with you, moving it on. Dan Wismar getting ready to join me here from Everybody Hates Cleveland and the Cleveland fan. We're going to pick up right where we left off. I mean, nowhere else to go. We've got some Indians talk coming up as well, though. Hey, some shakeups going on as the Tribe continuing. A little bit of bump in the road here this weekend, but continuing to really cut into that lead, really make things interesting here in the month of June, and some good things coming, and maybe, wow, some more things, interesting things coming here. We're going to talk about it as Chisenhall and Ramirez demoted, Giovanni Urshela coming up, Francisco Lindor perhaps as well, not that far behind, who knows. Interesting that Ramirez goes down and Lindor doesn't come up. That shows that all along, at least the Indians were being honest when it comes to the fact that he has to get himself there. But we're going to talk that, but we're mainly picking up where we left off last segment, talking about the Cavaliers and the amazing game last night. As they go to overtime, they defeat the Golden State Warriors. They grab home court advantage, and I tell you, I think they grab much more than that, because I believe they've grabbed the best that the Golden State Warriors have to offer, grabbed their heart and showed it to them and said, hey, you guys don't got what it takes to win this thing. I'm telling you, that's not hubris. That is the reality, and I think a lot of people saw the way this played out, and that's why the national narrative makes me laugh so much, and it makes me wonder, do people watch two completely different products? Because I don't know how many people came out of Game 1 seeing it so slanted. Oh, Kyrie's gone. The Cavs are dead and buried. Golden State, if they would have made their shots, they would have won by 30. Well, guess what? There's a reason that they didn't make their shots, and they should have lost Game 1 the way they did lose Game 2. And to me, it feels a whole lot like the Chicago series, and it feels like little by little the Cavaliers are starting to adapt and evolve to Golden State. Defensively, they've got their number, and offensively, when you have a team's number defensively, offensively, you don't need to score 110 points. And again, 2 games at Oracle Arena, both games in regulation, you held the Warriors under 100 points, and I mean much under last night. That says something there. We're going to pick that up right now. Hey, I'm going to stop talking to myself. I want to hear what my man Dan Wismar's got to say about all this. He was up last night, too, watching the greatest game in franchise history. Not just because it was the finals, because it was a hell of a game. And the Cavaliers are now 3 victories away from the Euclid Parade. Dan Wismar, how you doing, my man?
I'm getting ready to reserve my seat on Euclid Avenue, Jerry.
All right, let's jump in. Look, you said, hey, I'm putting faith in you, man. You've been calling it right throughout the playoffs, and then Game 1, Game 2, since you and I talked. Tell me, you're listening to me pontificate here. Do you see what I'm seeing? Do you see the same things that I'm seeing about the way the first 2 games, even Game 1, the way it played out? If you take out the last 180 seconds or so of momentum and the way that got away from the Cavs at the end of Game 1, to me, this series is playing out exactly like I think we talked heading into it, if you were looking at it from the Cavaliers' point of view.
Yeah, I think you're right, Jerry. And it is funny to listen to the national narrative. And we see the same thing happen in some other sports. You know, the Browns will beat the New Orleans Saints and beat them like a drum. And the ESPN narrative is, what's wrong with the New Orleans Saints? You know, and we see the same thing here. You know, what is the problem with the Golden State Warriors? Well, boy, they're just not playing that well. And it's all about them, and all about evaluating them. And geez, Kurt will never shoot that badly again, do you think? And that sort of thing. But, yeah, what is obvious is that the Cavs have dominated both games. You mentioned earlier that out of 96 minutes, the Warriors have only led for 20. Well, it's actually worse than that. It's 106 minutes, if you think about it.
Oh, overtime,
an extra 10 minutes of 2 overtimes. And right, so the Cavs have led on the vaunted, high-scoring Golden State Warriors on their home floor, where they're virtually unbeatable, have led them for 80 out of 106 minutes.
Yep.
And dominated the pace of play, dominated the flow of the game, and are a half an inch on a bad call or two and a and a missed Shumpert putback from being up 2-0 in this series. To me, the telling thing last night was after all the excuses about how, first of all, this team was, I said last night, the Cavs aren't playing bad for a team that had no chance. They were written off by virtually everybody, and it's embarrassing. I'm embarrassed for the broadcasters that they are so transparently rooting for the Warriors, excusing, like you say, every call that goes the Cavs' way as well could have gone either way, or that seemed like a little bit of a ticky-tack foul, or whatever. And even those guys, as shameless as they had been in their Warriors rooting for the entire series, even they had to admit late in the game, hey, geez, it really seems like, unlike other superstars, LeBron really doesn't get the calls down the stretch. When he's hacked by Iguodala across both arms with the referee standing 6 feet away looking directly at it at a key point in the game and swallows his whistle, even these announcers are forced to say, boy, you just can't miss that call, I believe is what he said. How they called in advance the holding by Draymond Green on the jump ball by noting before it even happened that, hey, earlier in the game, Draymond Green got a tip by holding the other guy down.
Yeah,
and they went ahead and did it again, and they got no call on it. So even as biased as they seem to be, and I said to somebody the other day, I said, I don't admit, I don't claim to be objective in this thing, but I'm also not blind or stupid. I'm watching what's going on, and I'm capable of making judgments independent of my, Cavs homerdom, And like you say, the people you're watching the game with, even people that don't have a dog in the fight, are saying, what the heck is going on? Jerry, it really does, to me, get to the point where I have some serious doubts about the integrity of the whole process when you've got calls like that going on.
Dan,
I don't know how you
night.
feel about that.
Yes,
and
last night.
You don't expect the announcers to do a whole lot to draw attention to how terrible the officiating is. It's not in their best interest to do that. It's like criticizing their own product. But even they were forced to sort of do it last night when these calls are going in. And to me, the worst call of the game was when LeBron did exactly what we criticized him for not doing in Game 1.
At the end of regulation.
Yes. A chance to win the game. He takes it to the rack. He takes it to the hoop.
How is that not a foul?
Not only is Iguodala grabbing him, hooking his elbow, blocking him, reaching around, reaching in on him, at the start of that, when he gets to the basket, two other Warriors come in and hack his right arm, forcing him to go to the left hand, and he misses the layup, but he gets fouled by no less than three guys, and we get nothing.
How in the world?
That wasn't quite as obvious as some of the non-calls later, but it really gets to the point where you question the whole integrity of the game.
Right, because he did exactly what you said. Boy, if he would have just done that, we'd have been on the foul line, and we'd have went. Well, obviously, we wouldn't have got to the foul line, even if he'd have drove. So he might as well have shot a jumper because he wasn't getting to the foul line, apparently. But, yeah, we're watching the 6 replays of that as they're getting ready to go into overtime, just watching it going, how's he not on the foul line right now? Really? Like, okay. And then when you talk about the integrity of the game, it's funny because there were several people in the group watching, and I get it. It's an emotional thing. We're all watching, and there's Cleveland fans, and there's emotion involved. But multiple people were like, you know what? If this thing goes, because it looked like, especially those couple right at the key moments at the end, like they were going to take this thing from the Cavs and practically hand it. And I don't care if you think that's homerism or not. That's the way it seemed, that these officials were going to literally affect the finish of this game and take it from the Cavaliers no matter how hard they fought to win this thing. And there's people in the room going, bro, if the Cavaliers lose this game, I'm done with the rest of this series. I'm done with the NBA because they have decided who's winning this thing, because that was how blatant it was appearing to many people watching this thing.
Yeah, you're right. And the criticism of officiating gets old and it gets tiresome, and people say, well, there were bad calls both ways. And yeah, there were. Although I do not agree that LeBron traveled before he got hacked by Iguodala. I'll give you the Mozgov travel earlier in the game where any
Twice.
Cavs fan would have gladly traded that call for the one that they did call. It wasn't a travel in Game 1.
At the end of the game, yes.
That might have cost them Game 1 among 2 or 3 other things that may have cost them Game 1. But, yeah, it really is incredible. And I don't know. I don't know what to say because it always comes off as just, homerism. Yes. And yes, there were some bad calls in the other direction, and officiating in general was horrible. But it's hard to watch that game and not come away, like you say, with the idea that the referees had made up their mind in advance. I mean, stuff that you're standing there looking at. It's not like a referee's out of position or not like a referee is saying, well, so many blatant. And the double arm hack by Iguodala on LeBron was probably the most blatant, obvious, and egregious one of them all.
Well, you know what, too?
I think on LeBron's drive to the basket, game on the line, you've got to give the superstar. We're admitting on that same play when they were replaying it over and over. Well, they give the little guys the benefit of the doubt, and so the smaller guy wants to LeBron because he's smaller,
and that drives me nuts. I know what you're saying.
I understand. A foul should be a foul, whether it's Dellavedova committing it on Shaquille O'Neal or who it is.
The other thing, it wasn't just the calls. It's the placement, the timing. I mean, when I say, you know what I mean. We're watching the end of this game.
Game changers. Game changers.
The crucial moments where you're going, okay, if you're going to let him play, let him play. If you're going to call it, and both. But you're picking the moments that you're going to call it against the Cavs at the key moments. And everybody knows one play wins a game at the end of overtime, at the end of regulation, whatever. And now you are literally affecting those game-changing plays. And that's where, how can you not call into question, what is going on here?
Yeah, you're right. Although, just going back in general to the way the Cavs have dictated things, after all that was said about the Warriors' offense, and of course all the conventional wisdom flew right out the window. Conventional wisdom before Game 2 said what did it say? It said that Tristan Thompson was going to have to contribute more offensively. Well, he
did less.
He did less. J.R. Smith was going to have one of those out of his mind games. Well, he did that.
Yeah, the wrong way.
Out of his mind in a negative way on defense. For a time, it looked like J.R. was trying to lose the game all by himself, as much as LeBron was trying to win it all by himself with some of the brainless fouls he is committing. And Shumpert had nothing until late fourth quarter, and then obviously he hit a big 3 in overtime.
He was big on defense. Give Shumpert that. Shumpert played good defense, though. Yeah.
He had a great game on defense because really Klay Thompson kind of disappeared in the second half in overtime. Klay Thompson put on a shooting display like I've never seen in that first half.
He had 20.
Could not miss. But and I guess I wasn't watching all the time, but I guess from reading and talking to people that Iman Shumpert had a lot to do with him not continuing to go off in the second half.
I was a bit confused because they had Curry they had Delly guarding Thompson a bit in the first quarter a lot, and that's when Thompson started like 7 for 10 or whatever, and a lot of that was when they had Delly on Thompson, who's way longer and a couple inches taller, and Shumpert was on Curry. And if you notice, when the Cavs, and that was when Golden State had the big lead to start things off, when they were really starting out hot and Thompson was really leading the way for them. Then the Cavs took a timeout, maybe I think there was 3 minutes left in the first quarter, and they switched, and Delly started guarding Curry, and Shumpert switched over to Klay Thompson, and there was a noticeable difference. I mean, there was one replay where, Delly's trying to block the shot and doesn't have a chance because Thompson's just so long, and I looked right at the guy next to me, and I'm like, yeah, that's a bad matchup. And then the Cavs quickly switched it up, and a much different matchup there because Delly much more size relatable to Curry, and boy, was he playing some defense on Curry yesterday or what?
Yeah, and I think a good part of it has to be as much mental as it was physical. Yeah, Delly, plays a lot with his arms out to his sides. In other words, I'm not grabbing him. I'm just playing position defense, and he did a great job of that, and he didn't let Curry get a lot of open looks at threes. I don't think he had more than 2 or 3, wide open looks at threes, and it was early in the game, and he bricked a couple of them. But I think Deli got in his head too. I really do. And
for sure.
For the Cavs to do what they did, which is now I heard this that during the first half that the Golden State Warriors at home this year are averaging 57 points in the first half.
Yeah.
Cavs held them to 59 in 3 quarters.
I know.
That was just incredible to me. And now, obviously, the Cavs only had 62. I mean, they were only up by 3, I think, at the end of the third, but had held this offensive juggernaut to 59 points on their home court through 3 quarters. One of the best displays of defense. Obviously, there was bad shooting, but that's defense that I've ever seen this Cavs team come up with. A lot of people were questioning the Cavs' whole philosophy, and it's the LeBron, David Blatt, call it the Mike Brown philosophy, too, that you win with defense, and that's sort of a notion that's out of fashion in the NBA these days. And the Warriors are up slashed by the 3, and so they game finals are a sound defensive team can beat the 3-point shooting team, and they've dominated them for, like you said, 80 out of 106 minutes. The Cavs on the road have held the lead against the Warriors and dictated the way things are going to be. So it's just immensely satisfying, although you and I and everybody else saw the same scenario, playing out last night as we saw in Game 1, where you have a lead at the end and you let it fritter away and you make a couple of dumb plays, JR, and
yes.
you see that whole lead go away, and they go ahead in overtime by a point for the first time since the second quarter that they had even had the lead. And you just thought, oh, my God, here we go again. And then you've got to play the striped shirts as well as the guys in the Warriors uniforms, and it just makes you depressed as you see the way it's playing out. And Shumpert made a great play, and it didn't get any play because it was the final play of the game, but you saw they're coming down the court with 4 seconds to go, and Curry tries to pass it ahead. Shumpert, is aware of what's going on and gets his hand on the ball and slaps it, and the game is over. Shumpert, didn't get a lot of credit for that, but the replays show he made a hell of a heads-up play on that final play.
Oh, yeah, that was huge there for sure, because the last thing you wanted was them to even get a heave-off at the end of the game. You didn't even want any chance being taken there at all as far as that goes. I'm with you, my man, and I'll tell you what, man, just so many different things. I want to go back for a minute to Deli. I mean, talk about what he did too. And I was seeing, I don't remember where I was reading somewhere, putting stuff together, but reminded back to the last 2 series as well. For anybody that tries to take away what the Cavs as a team and what some of these guys individually have done, you look at the other 2 series, the last 2 with Chicago and Atlanta. In each of those, there were games where Kyrie Irving went down, was unable to play, Deli stepped in. Of course, Cavs have yet to lose in any of those games, but I point to one game in each series now where Deli, first time he replaces Kyrie against Chicago, he plays Derrick Rose. Derrick Rose goes 7 for 22 when guarded by Matthew Dellavedova. The next series against Atlanta, he guards Jeff Teague into a 9 for 32 performance there, and Jeff Teague was the big shooter there. And then last night, Steph Curry, 5 of 23 and 2 for 15 from 3-point. I mean, once, twice, 3 times a lady. That's a pattern there. That's not happenstance at this point, man. And that goes to the Cavs and to Deli defensively there. But that is 3 huge. Derrick Rose, Jeff Teague, Steph Curry. Each time, Matthew Dellavedova steps in and shuts him down.
Yeah, it really was quite something. And Deli, of course, I was, screaming halfway through the game because Deli was, I know that he felt and probably knew, and I'm sure probably acting on coach's instructions, to take his shot when it's open, to take the threes when they're there.
That little floater, too.
And he did, and he was bricking them, and he was 1 of 6 for the game, and the one he hit was huge.
Huge.
And to his credit, he kept on shooting. Also, Deli got to the line 2 times with 10 seconds to go in overtime, drained them both. Not only that, but even more impressive is the offensive rebound. I mean, you're going to lose that game if Deli doesn't, of all the unlikely people to get an offensive board.
At the end, yeah.
At the end, is Deli coming through to rebound the missed 3, and Klay Thompson kicking himself for not blocking him out after the game I saw. But here's Deli coming up with the loose ball, kind of throws up a wild-ass shot, but gets fouled on it, calmly goes and drains some free throws, and it's the game-winning point. So he's getting lauded for his defense, but he made a huge three. Was it late regulation or was it in OT? I think it might have been late regulation when he got the one open three that kind of sagged off him, and he just took it and drained it. The only 3-pointer he made out of 6 tries all game, and then his only trip to the free throw line. First time he shot free throws all game is in the biggest situation in Cavs history, and he calmly drains them both. So. You can't say a whole lot more about what the kid gave you, and you just hope he's got 3 more games like that in it.
And this is the thing where, again, going back to what are other people seeing and how do you get paid all that money to analyze this stuff? Because what we've seen, and we've watched the Cavs throughout the season and throughout the playoffs, but, the whole all in and next man up, I know it's cute and it's cliche and all that, but for some reason, whatever it is, it's not just talk. It's not just a narrative that with Kyrie out, the Cavaliers have been better. Not saying that in the this is a negative thing for Kyrie Irving, but when he's been out, the Cavaliers they completely changed their game. They play an entirely different style of basketball, and they're incredibly effective and efficient at that style of basketball to where everybody else was going, oh, well, they're done now. To me, and many of us that know, not just root, but know what this team's done in the playoffs, you go, no, actually, the games that they've been forced to play without him in the playoffs, they've been disgustingly efficient because they just maximize, whatever it is, they change their style of game, and whatever you want to call it, they're really good at it. Whatever it is, they're really good at it, and so it was not the negative that everybody thought it was.
You're right. They've figured out a way to step it up, and LeBron talked about it after the game last night where he was, I don't like to take 34 shots, but that's the hand I've been dealt, that we've been dealt. And so that's what we're doing. And I'm a little bit curious as to what has happened to Delly's signature play, which is the pick-and-roll alley-oop to Tristan Thompson and or Mozgov. That I don't know if the Warriors are doing something to take that away.
I think they're taking it away. Yeah, I think they're taking it away.
They really haven't gone to that a whole lot. But the other thing, too, is the adjustments that this team has made. And let's give David Blatt some credit. I realize Coach James probably called a pretty good game last night, but David Blatt is now 3-0 after losses in the playoffs. He's only lost 3 games, and on each occasion he's come back and won the following game. That tells you that he's making adjustments, and he and his staff are making adjustments. Players are understanding them and executing them on the court, and I don't think it's a coincidence that each time they've lost a game, they've come back and won. So there's a lot of credit to go around, and certainly you had a superhuman game. That's like, we talked a little bit last week before the series started, Jerry, about the national narrative being, unless LeBron James turns into Superman, and those of us that have watched him all these years sitting there going, well, have you been watching? Have you been paying attention? He had the cape on last night, man, and 39-16 and 11.
And that's
I don't know how
it.
you get any closer to Superman than that.
And last night, that's just it. Okay, the needing nearly 40 shots drives me crazy. But I'm not saying this in a bad way. What I'm saying is, the 39 to 44 points. That's okay. That's cool. It's very high volume, and it's necessary because somebody has to score the points. Every NBA team's gonna score 85 points or so, and then everything above that is the extra that superstars bring you in. So of course, he's gonna fill in those points that are missing from his usual 25 to 30 to beyond. So the volume of it's not so much. It's the 16 boards. It's the assists. It's the controlling of the game. To me, yesterday, I will put that up with a couple of other games. I'll put that up with obviously we've already seen a couple here in these playoffs, but if you're looking at on the big stage, and that's where I think you separate some of the other games that may have happened in conference finals or in first rounds of the playoffs or whatever.
Right, the
Pistons.
I put yesterday.
Yeah, I put yesterday up with the 45-point triple-double that he had when he was with Miami 2 years ago. That was, to me, just one of the most amazing games. I mean, that was Wilt Chamberlain-esque, that game that he had. You know which one I'm talking about, where he just,
I do.
would not be denied.
That and the game he had with the Cavs against the Pistons. But
yes,
I don't know if I'm sure you noticed in the press conference after the game last night, he was kind of joking around and poking fun at the narrative about how they let him get 42 and they're 44.
Oh, well, he was mad about that after the first one. He goes,
because after the Warriors, after the Warriors won that game, the talk was, well, we can let LeBron have his 44, but we managed to hold these other guys down, and that's what won the game for him. And I think LeBron might have been a little bit put off.
He was
by
mad.
the idea that they let him have 44, that he didn't somehow earn every one of those 44 points in the opener. And he said something about, well, I almost got close to my 40. They let me have 39 tonight, or some joke about that, about just mocking him. Basically, they let me have X number of points, and pointed out that he doesn't want to take that many shots, but tonight was different because I got my 11 assists, he said.
Yeah, he was mad about that after the first game. He said, you don't let I go get 40. You don't let me have 40. And then, like you said, so that's why he kind of took that on last night and said, well, I guess they let me get it again. Almost got it again, I guess they let me get those points. They may want to stop.
The amazing
you may want to stop
them
if you're Golden State. You stop letting them score
those
points.
The amazing thing to me after game one was how Iguodala was being called he was the stopper. He was the LeBron stopper.
Yeah.
Wait a minute. Did he have 44 or didn't he? And obviously they keep track of the stats on what they are when one player is guarding him versus another player is guarding him. But come on, no one was the LeBron stopper of game one, and no one was the LeBron stopper of game two, other than guys that hacked him and didn't get called for it.
Here's what's funny is that before the series, what they said was, you're not going to stop LeBron, you're not going to stop Steph Curry. You let them get their points, and you try to stop everybody else. Well, no, because LeBron has gone out and gotten still while being the focus of attention, and clearly Curry has had more of a difficulty. And again, I think some of that we talked about some of this before, and I'm very interested in watching how this plays out. And I think it's so funny to see how just so many different people can see it, because I've seen people that look at it like, well, the Cavs were lucky to come out with a split, and then I go, well, you're just completely insane if that's what you think, because if anybody on the Golden State side of things is feeling good about themselves today, they're the ones wearing yellow and blue colored glasses, because there is no way that they should not have a 2-0 lead and their foot on the throat of the Cavaliers right now. And the fact that they don't, and that you heard the pressers maybe, or maybe you didn't, but listen to the Warriors players yesterday. And I go back to Curry, and LeBron does a very good job of playing coy and keeping a straight face and not giving up weaknesses and stuff. But you could read it all over Curry's face yesterday after the game. He was point blank saying they're doing something that nobody else has been able to do to us. He admitted that the Cavs are taking things away. They're not just being unable to run their offense. And he didn't say we're going to figure it out. He said we have to try to figure this out or else we're in trouble. And you can just see in all of their statements yesterday that they're incredibly flustered by the defense of the Cavs, because they don't go, well, we're just going to show up tomorrow and fix it. They know that the Cavs are doing some stuff and taking away everything that they like to do.
Yeah, that's right. And one of the biggest things that the Cavs have done is take that crowd out. That I think the turning point in the whole series was yesterday when they're up 20-12,
and we came
get
back.
A big dunk, all the time out. We go to commercial. They got a 20-12 lead first quarter, couple minutes to go, and the Cavs come back and score 10 straight. And after that, there was a lot of ugliness going on, and really throughout that stretch, there was a lot of ugly basketball being played. But the bottom line was the Warriors went about 4 or 5 minutes without scoring a basket. Cavs tie the game, and Cavs go up 22-20, and I think we end up the first quarter tied. I'm not sure what the first quarter final was, but that stretch, that 10-0 run, the Warriors are like, uh-oh, because we were just ready to tear the house down here a couple minutes ago, and Klay Thompson came down with the score 20-12, threw up a three from about 5 feet behind the line. without passing the ball off, and bricked it on the front edge of the rim. And really, from that point on, that crowd was in sort of uh-oh mode. They were, the Cavs came back tight, it went up, and oh God, here we go again. We're going to be in a game. This is not going to be a blowout. We're not going to get a run going. And really from a brief lead the Warriors had in the second quarter, Cavs did not trail after that until that 1-point deficit in overtime. And the crowd, meanwhile, was biting their fingernails instead of screaming at the top of their lungs. And so, to me, that's one of the biggest things they did, is successfully get that crowd out of the game by dictating pace, by grabbing a lead and managing to hold on to it, and keeping them nervous instead of, all jacked up.
You brought up the point in time that I think told the story of this series. I was kind of describing it earlier. It was exactly there. When they had that 20-12 lead, the Cavs took a timeout. Teams came out of the timeout. Golden State passed the ball to Draymond Green, who raced. The Cavs were not prepared defensively, and he raced down the court. And I think, I don't know if he missed the dunk or what it was. Something happened, but they did it again. They came out of that huddle like a team like they were trying to put the dagger in the Cavs. They're going early. They were on the verge of a double-digit lead, but they ran two very fast. They attacked aggressively, the Cavs, and for about 60 to 120 seconds, they were trying to finish the Cavs off early. And I know to break the Cavs. The Cavs took it, came back, went on that big long run, and quickly they were up double digits after that moment. And I said, if you're Golden State, deep down in your heart, you're in trouble, because you didn't just have a lead. If you know what you were looking for, they called a timeout, and Golden State went in that huddle and said, we've got them. Let's break them right now. And instead, the Cavaliers took your best shot, came back, and put it back in your face. And I think at that moment, the Golden State, this is not, I think they may have been buying into the Cavs are going away. What can they do? They're missing on, and they go, wow. Because I don't think they realized it, but they do now. But if you notice that moment, they tried to break the Cavs, and instead the Cavs took control of the game, and that was very telling 5-minute stretch to me.
It was, and with the crowd out of the game, I thought that really for the rest of the game, with the Cavs in the lead, and the Cavs never had a huge lead. I mean, they did build it up to 11 in the fourth there, but
they were quiet.
For most of the second half, the crowd was quiet, and I thought that the Warriors really lacked a sense of urgency there. In other words, I heard Wilbon after the game, too, talking about the same thing, talking about how the Warriors almost had a little bit of arrogance to them, like, well, hey, Curry's 1 of 15 or 1 of 12 or wherever at the time, and we're going to shoot our way out of this thing. We can come back and do this anytime. We can put a push on at the end and take this lead, and we're just going to hang here. We're not going to get too excited about being down 4, 6, 8 points. Because we know that our run is coming, and obviously at some point later on it did come finally in the last 3 minutes of regulation. But, it was a little bit of arrogance, I think, on their part that, hey, we're not worried. We don't have to do anything right. We're going to hit some threes down the stretch and win this ball game. Not the way it went down, obviously. They did hit a couple in rapid succession there to take that lead from 11 down to 5 with a couple minutes to go, and we saw that lead, leaking away. But I just thought their attitude wasn't urgent enough for the better part of that second half when they trailed the entire half.
I agree with you. I very much agree with you. And I'll tell you what, I expect a Game 3 to be very much like Game 3 against Atlanta. I expect them to come and throw everything that they've got, and I think this is the key here. If the Cavaliers take Game 3, I'm sticking with it. The Cavs are winning this thing in 5 because I believe the momentum will start to roll downhill, and I think the key for Golden State is to answer back, and I don't think they're going to be able to. I really don't. Just listening to each team as they're leaving the arena yesterday, I'm going, boy, if you didn't watch any of these games, it's clear who feels that they're in control of this series and who doesn't. One team's saying it, but the other team is screaming it in their body language. And it feels to me that all of the momentum in this series is with the Cavs heading back into Cleveland. And how crazy is Cleveland going to be tomorrow, Dan? I mean, the fact that they fought back, and it's even bigger because it feels like that everybody was trying to take it away from the Cavs, the announcers, the officials, everybody. They fought the world, and they won. How crazy is downtown going to be tomorrow night?
Oh, it's going to be fabulous. I can't wait until Thursday. Actually, Thursday, I've got tickets for the Tribe game. They're playing at noon.
Oh, yeah.
And I think I'm just going to hang around after the Indians game
atmosphere.
out there in the plaza and just soak it in a little bit, because you know that 2-3 hours before that game starts, that plaza gateway is going to be just nuts. I figure I'll just come out of that Tribe game and hang around for a while. But yeah, tomorrow night should be absolutely crazy as well, and you know that the team is going to be jacked up to play, and like you said earlier before I got on here, that LeBron wants to do it for these fans, in front of these fans, and I'm not sure about 5. I'm not as confident as you are, but I'll take 6. I'll take winning 2 here.
Me too.
Going back there and maybe seeing the Warriors come up. But this Warriors team, as you know, we've talked about it, they're not a particularly good road team.
Nope.
And it's certainly not out of the realm of possibility to envision the Cavs winning both of these games and going back to Oakland with a 3-1 lead. So, I'm kind of tempted to, even though I don't have a ticket, to head up there to tomorrow night just to soak it up.
Yeah, that's I'm with you. That's a good plan too, to be around that atmosphere. And I've got friends going to the game and all. And the ticket prices, by the way, are just unbelievable that are being floated around out there for this thing. It is going to be wild. But that's a good idea for Thursday, man. Just kick it down there, stay by the corner bar for a while, and then just watch as that whole congregation flocks down there. And it's going to be absolute madness. And I think the Cavs take them both. I really do. I think the Cavs take both of them here in Cleveland. I actually think that the game 3 is going to be a dogfight right down to the end. I think the Cavaliers win game 4 going away and really put this thing on the brink. And then the key will be, does Golden State have anything left in them? They may very well come back and take game 5, bring it back here. And I know that's what a lot of people probably you're thinking they're talking about 6, but I think that's the way the next 2 are going to go. I think the Cavs win a very hard-fought game 3, and then I think they win pretty decisively game 4 and really put Golden State on the brink of elimination going back home. And then, like I said, whether it goes 5 or 6 will be determined there. But that's the way I see the next 2 going.
Yeah, it's interesting, too, about this whole matchup of Cavs-Warriors. I think that, anytime you don't have your markets, and the NBA is, of course, in trouble because they've got dog teams right now in New York and Los Angeles. And people were concerned about Cavs Warriors just from the standpoint of interest nationally, television ratings, appeal to the fan. And, of course, they go out and have some kind of a record ratings for that game
for
1.
For the first game,
Yeah, first game, and incredible interest. It had obviously a fabulous basketball game. They had another fabulous basketball game in game 2. The NBA's got to be sort of rethinking their posture, their concern about the whole thing, because obviously fan interest is very high. It's a very competitive series, 2 entertaining teams to watch, and I think it's much better than they had any business thinking it was going to be.
Yeah, absolutely. Speaking of those ratings, they did set a record. It wasn't like the highest rated game 1. I think it was the highest rated on ABC of all the finals that they've done. But either way, and speaking of, I saw the rating in Cleveland was, I believe it was about a 41.5, which is roughly translates to the percentage of houses that have their TV on. So I want to know what the other 60% of the houses in Cleveland were watching, man. Only 40% of Cleveland was watching the game 1 of the NBA Finals. I was kind of curious that it wasn't more like a 70 share as far as percentage of the TVs that were watching it. But still, I think, what was it? The highest 3 markets were San Francisco, Cleveland, and Columbus. I think 25% of the TVs in Columbus were watching game 1 as well.
Yeah, a lot of Cavs fans down there. Obviously, they're typically Cincinnati fans in baseball and football in Columbus, but they don't have an NBA franchise. So,
right.
So I think the Columbus folks are are getting Cavs on Fox Sports, and they've developed quite a following down there, especially this season.
All in, like they say, all in Ohio. It's all of us here. That's the good thing. There is no secondary team. There is no split rooting there. We're all rooting for the Cavaliers here in Ohio. Man, I cannot wait, Dan. And we'll be able to talk about Game 3 here and Wednesday when we come back. But what an unbelievable, exciting start to this thing. It takes the focus away. Here, the show, poor Cleveland Indians, man. They just keep chugging along and doing their thing, but they don't get the focus. I mean, and rightfully so, obviously. The Cavs, the spotlight here. But who'd have thought, and I'm going to shift gears here, you guys that are listening. Dan Wismar, J-Rocc here doing the thing, talking some Cavs, talking some Indians. Who would have thought that you'd hear Jose Ramirez has been sent down and not accompanied by Francisco Lindor's been called up. But another key prospect making his major league debut as Lonnie Chisenhall sent down as well, and Giovanni Urshela coming up to the majors.
Yeah, it's been painful over the last several weeks to watch Lonnie Chisenhall play for the Indians, Jerry. As much as I have rooted for the kid to succeed, and as much as it looked like last year in April, May, and June that he was coming around to be the kind of hitter that we thought he might someday be, it's been painful lately because he just seems utterly lost at the plate, kicking the ball around in the field a little bit the last several days as well. I was at my wit's end the other day when they're in a tie game, I think, and we've got a leadoff double, and he comes up with a chance to get the guy over to third, and has a couple of just utterly hapless, inexcusable bunt attempts on strike one and strike two, and then flails at strike three and sits down. And I just thought, man, there's no business for a major league ball player to be unable to get a bunt down when he has to in a crucial time like that.
Yeah.
It's almost like he doesn't. It's almost like his body language has been bad. He just looks lost, and this was something that was called for sure, because he's been hurting you. You can't expect to win games when you've got two or three holes in your lineup, absolute holes. I'm talking about the Swisher Chisenhall, and sometimes it's Bourne, and sometimes it's somebody else. Holes in your lineup where this team is not a big home run hitting team, and you got to string 2, 3, 4 hits together to get some runs, and it's hard to do that when you've got every time through the order you've got 2 or 3 holes in the lineup. So it's time and for Lonnie to go get his head back on straight. I was a little surprised that we didn't see Lindor. Apparently they're planning to play Mike Aviles at short for a while. Probably alternate Urshela and Walters at third base, you'd think.
Yeah.
Maybe platoon situation over there, and have Walters give your outfielders a day off once in a while as well. But I welcome the move. I think it's good. I'll be very interested to see Urshela. I've never seen him play. He's hitting in the, high 270s or something down there. And I understand he's had some injury problems, hasn't played a lot of games this year, but we know he's got a good glove, and a good glove in the minors is different from a good glove as a rookie in the majors. So we'll see how he adjusts there. But he's got a hit tool, and they think he'll hit at the major league level. I'm just interested in seeing, because at this point, what's the risk of bringing up Giovanni Urshela? What are you giving up if you're giving up a virtual hole in your lineup in Lonnie Chisenhall lately? So little to be lost, much to be gained, and we'll see how the kid's baptism under fire goes.
And I'm going to say this right here, talking about Lonnie Chisenhall. I don't believe this is a get yourself together and get called back up to the majors thing. I fully anticipate Lonnie Chisenhall is part of a trade at some point this season, and I do think that his time with the Indians has come and gone. I think that I don't think this is a wake-up call send down. I could be wrong, but matter of fact, was it Pluto over the weekend? I was reading an article, and it actually took his stats from the second half. Basically, after you take off that hot first half that he had, if you take his second half last year and basically his first half, which is almost the first half here this year, it adds up to almost 400 at-bats. It's very close to a full season, and it's practically identical to what he's done so far this year. It's like a 2.18 average or something like that. It's just it's nothing, and it's a crossover of 2 seasons, but it's a long enough sample size that it to me I think it's pretty clear that with Lonnie Chisenhall, offensively, what you saw in the first part of last year was the outlier and not the norm. And while I will say this, and I do wonder this, part of me wonders if some of the drop-off offensively isn't because he put more of a focus defensively. And although, hey, man, you got to be able to do it all. I mean, if you can't, then that's a problem. But he has been much better defensively. What's he got, 3 or 4 errors this season compared to the butcher job that he was doing over there last year, which you could deal with when he was hitting the ball all over the place. But I'll tell you what do you think about that? I think that Lonnie, I don't think this is a go get yourself better and you're coming back. I mean, Urshela's time was coming anyway, and they have other options in Aviles and Walters, as you said, and other things you can plug in there. Chisenhall is making over, $2 million here, and there was a decision that needed to be made on him anyway. I think he's part of some kind of trade later on this season.
Well, it wouldn't surprise me if Lonnie Chisenhall never makes it back up to the big league club to play third base for the Indians again. That certainly would not be a surprise. So, yeah, you may be right. As far as the defense, it's been slightly better, this year. He made 2 errors in one game over the weekend. I'm not sure what his total errors
kind
are.
of killed my point.
But, he and it can't be an excuse for, hitting 160 over a 400 at bat, time span. I think teams just figured out that personally he can't handle the inside pitch. Having him inside with fastballs in on his fist, and he just hasn't been able to deal with it. And that's not based on any scientific study of how he's been pitched. It's just casual observation on my part. But that's what it seems like. It seems like teams are just setting up and coming right inside on his fist, and he hasn't been able to turn on the ball, and he just we haven't seen any kind of a power stroke this year. I think 4 homers. You just can't keep throwing them out there every day, and Chris Bryant or anything. But this was also occurring to me over the weekend as I'm thinking about the third base situation for the Cleveland Indians, and maybe you'll be able to refresh my memory here. But how long has it been since this team had a glove and stick? And please don't tell me Casey Blake, but
Matt Williams.
How far back? How far back do we have to go? Do we have to go back to Buddy Bell, Toby Harrah?
No,
I mean, how
Matt
far do we
Williams.
go back to find
Matt Williams was
Matt
probably
okay.
plus.
Matt Williams had a cup of coffee here and did well as a veteran player. 96.
Travis Fryman, Bruce in the chat room brings up Travis Fryman. That's not the worst.
Okay,
example.
all right.
I'll
give you Fryman. That's not the worst. That's a good glove man and an average. I guess you could say that Travis Fryman was an above average third baseman.
That's about it.
But it just seems like it's been a position that we've had a hard time getting excellence out
Brooke
of.
Jacoby.
Brooke Jacoby did hit 30 homers one year and had 100.
That's right. He had a hot August.
And Lonnie Chisenhall had a good 3 months last year too. So I'm just saying it's been tough. It's been a trouble spot for this team, especially in the last couple of decades. And it almost makes you think that this team really ought to be on who they've got down in the mid to low minors even.
You know what though?
Looks like a great prospect.
Well, let's talk a little bit, though. I want to bring up so much focus over the last couple of seasons has been on Lindor. I know Mike Brandenberry, he's been, I think, 3-4 years we've been doing chats here about the Tribe, couple of years anyway. And Urshela is somebody that he has really talked about even, I think I remember 2 years ago even. He's focused on Lindor, but man, this kid is the real deal. And he's going so I mean, there's a lot of excitement to me to see what he can do. I'm sitting here looking, of course, minor league stats are what they are, but looking at his last couple of seasons, in AA, he hit 300, then he went up to Columbus, hit 276, and offensively, I think 13 home runs. The season before combined, he had 20 in AA and AAA. So he's got a little bit of pop there to the bat. His fielding. I mean, I hear so many good things. He brings to the table here as a prospect, because I think that he would have had more buzz around him had Francisco Lindor not been knocking at the door at the same time. I think a lot of people's focus has been there. But, I mean, to me, internally, in the Tribe, too, if you talk to a lot of people, there's very much internal excitement about what Giovanni Urshela brings to the table.
I don't think there's any doubt about that. And Alci McKella and other guys that I know and respect have him rated, and certainly in the top 10, if not the top 5 prospects for this team. Again, proof's always in the pudding. We'll see how he does at the major league level.
Right.
You know one thing, it's gonna take him some time. So this is a team that ostensibly is trying to contend here this year. It's certainly, like I said, though, it's not as though you're taking a big risk to get rid of Chisenhall because he's been giving you absolutely nothing.
Let me ask you something,
and he
Dan.
does.
Speaking of what you're saying, to me, if you're an Indians fan, this gives you some really good vibes about how this Indians front office is looking at this team, because that was a move, as awkward as it is to bring up a guy to debut like that here when you're really in the midst of a resurgence and a rejuvenation from earlier in the season. But this says to me that the Indians are not satisfied, that they realize that, okay, they're digging out of a hole here, because this isn't a sitting still, like we talked about with Bourne. I mean, you can see a lot of the moves, basically since the point where they moved Bourne out of the leadoff spot, the moves that the Indians make have been a lot more about less about patience. There's still some patience, but less about the big long-term patience, more of we need to win now, and a lot of those moves. And I think these two right there, Ramirez, you could have made the argument that should have been done a week or two minimum ago. And a month ago, if he didn't get hot for a week or so, then you probably could have said a month ago. But same thing with Chisenhall. But for them to make those moves says that they're looking at, hey, we're doing this. Look at the pitching we got. No reason to sit here and waste time. I mean, at least it tells me that come trade deadline time, the front office is looking at the Indians as looking at being in that window and not, let's see if they can do it with what they got.
Yeah, that's true. And looked at from afar by people outside the organization or whatever around baseball, it might appear to be a move in the other direction. That, well, we're not going to contend. We might as well bring up this AAA third baseman.
I don't think so.
But you're right that I think it is a move dedicated towards winning now, as opposed to winning later. Look, we're making a run, and Chisenhall isn't helping us make it.
Right.
We're losing games 3-2, 2-1. We're not scoring enough runs, and we've got some shaky defense as well. So, like I said, what risk do we have in making a change over there and basically replacing the entire left side of our infield in the middle of June in a race that we're still in? I agree with you. I think it's a move that basically shows a little bit of win now kind of approach, and we're trying to win here, and this guy and that guy aren't contributing much to getting us there, and so we're going to make a change. I also am very interested, and I see Urshela as a legit prospect, and like I said, I haven't seen him play a lot other than some spring training action. But looking forward to it, and obviously hope he can do it. Let me ask you this: this is all on the heels of the Houston Astros. They're sitting in first place, bringing up their stud shortstop, Correa, who was Carlos Correa, I believe is his name, who was the first pick taken in the 2012 draft. They made a move considered gutsy by some people to bring up a rookie shortstop, a 21-year-old kid who has just been tearing it up in the minor. In fact, he's one of the few prospects in all of baseball that is rated higher than Lindor. The only shortstop in the minors rated higher than Lindor. And a first-place team brings him up, and they're asked about it, and they said, well, we consider him to be one of the top 25 players in our organization, and therefore we want to have him, because we want to win now. And they're inserting him into their lineup as a young green kid as their shortstop. And it occurred to me to ask you today, do you think Francisco Lindor is in that same category? Do you think that that Lindor, the Indians consider Lindor one of the top 25 players in their organization? And if so, do you think it's going to be sooner or later that we see him here?
I think the fact that he's hurt is what changed. It's not just that he hasn't been playing well, but I mean, we've all been saying that he hasn't put himself in a position with his play to come up anyway. But from everything I've seen, he's physically banged up, and not just one injury. He's got a couple of things that he's dealing with right now. So, I mean, if a guy's okay, it's one thing he's struggling. You say, okay, well, let's bring him up and see what he does here at the major league level. But when there's injuries involved too, why put the guy behind the 8 ball when you can wait 2 or 3 weeks? It's back down or make another roster move if you need to in a couple of weeks. And I think if you're the Indians, what you're hoping is that this is the eye-opener for Lindor that gets him to the major leagues. That he says, hey, man, the door's open. Look at Urshela just got called up, man. If, I have a good too. And I think maybe that's a good thing. Maybe that motivation is there. But I do think the physical thing plays a part of it too. If he wasn't banged up, then maybe you can say, okay, let's bring him up and see if he can sink or swim. But there too, that just, to me, that's just more of an uphill fight for the guy when you've got Urshela, and I think that balances it out too. It's like, hey, let's leave him a couple more weeks. Let's see what Giovanni's got here, and then Walters too getting a chance now to come up. Remember, he was hurt earlier, but he's got that pop in the bat. So, but what do you think? You got to think that the physical part is a reason besides just not having it together yet offensively.
Yeah, and I guess he has had a back injury or something, and
I think
missed a couple of weeks. Urshela has missed some time too.
He had his leg injured.
Now Lindor, I guess, has been hitting the ball better. I saw somebody tweeting this morning. I didn't know if it was this past week that he was named the International League Player of the Week. I didn't know. I thought that was current, and I kind of raised my eyebrows because I hadn't really heard that he was having that great of a last few days, but. I see here he is batting almost 300 over the last month, 363 on base, slugging 440. So in the last few weeks, he has kind of snapped out of the hitting slump a little bit. And I'm not really up to date on what the nature of his nagging injuries are, Jerry. But I can't believe that they're going to go with Mike Aviles as their shortstop for very long. Now, I understand that Zach Walters came up as a shortstop. He's played a little shortstop in his career. Not sure if we'll see him there. I imagine we could, but I don't think a steady diet of that is what anybody wants. So I've got to believe that maybe this Walters move is more short term, and
yes,
I just got to believe that the Lindor move is going to happen sooner instead of later, and maybe even within, say, a week to 10 days.
Well, I do too, and like I said, it's multiple things. He's got a bruised left hand. He's got an injury to the back that we were talking about as well. So there's a couple of things, and I think that as much as anything else, you brought up Correa coming up, and I saw his stat line so far this season, half AA and half AAA. That's what the Indians wanted Lindor to do. He's hitting like 340. He's got double-digit home runs and doubles. He's got almost 50 RBIs, 20 stolen bases. That is what the Indians wanted Lindor to do. Say, hey, you can't keep me down anymore. And I think that's what they're still holding out hope for. But I do believe that, like you said, it's a short-term thing here to give him a window to heal up first. I just think that if a guy's banged up, if he's got bruised ribs, back, whatever it is, and he's got bruised hands, he's got issues that are going to affect him physically, I mean, why put him behind the 8-ball when you can wait 2 weeks and
yeah, you're right. It's not really fair to him to make his major league debut if he's banged up. So yeah, I certainly can see that. And geez, Correa, I was looking at some of those numbers, and he obviously is a run producer. He's obviously got some power and interesting to see what he does the rest of the year. But I don't think the Indians ever are expecting that kind of slugging run production, RBIs and power out of Francisco Lindor. But obviously they do think the ceiling is high on him. And the other thing Urshela does too for you is it kind of balances your lineup a little bit more righty-lefty.
Because he's righty, yeah.
He's a right-handed hitter, and one less lefty in that lineup is can't do anything but help you. Now that you've got Gomes back and Urshela and you've got a switch hitter in Lindor, you're in a little bit better shape in terms of how you're approaching all these left-handed starters people have been throwing at us.
And I think Urshela can play the hell out of some third base, too. So, I mean, I'm very interested to see this kid come up and do that. And by the way, you talked about Lindor hitting better. Overall, what's he at? 269 for the season there at AAA. He's definitely brought it up because I think he was in the 230, 240 area about a month ago. So he's definitely brought that overall average up a little bit. He's got just over 200 plate appearances at AAA. 269 with a 342 on base percentage, almost 400 slugging percentage. So, he's definitely improved in the last, not even a month. I think within 3 weeks, Francisco Lindor's up here. As soon as the Indians do hope to see as well some motivation from him, because that grab that brass ring and do it. And man, I'll tell you, who would have seen perhaps a month from now side of your infield going in 2015? Maybe you've got a pennant run, stretch run there for the Indians. That would be interesting. Hey, it's not like Asdrubal Cabrera wasn't a big piece of things 10 years ago for the Indians when they made a run. So, you know, sometimes the youth is the power that you need, that drives you down the stretch.
Yeah, that's true, and it'd be nice to see. And like you said, it's little risk, lots of gain. We're gonna let them cut their teeth with some pressure, and based on how Ramirez and Chisenhall were hitting, we were getting absolutely nothing offensively from that side of the diamond. So time to make the move. I'm glad to see it. I welcome the new blood.
With the pitching that the Indians have, if they get the defense shored up around, and man, you may never get a hit against the Indians. Boy, that pitching, we haven't even mentioned it because we're talking about the young guys and hadn't even talked about it. Yeah, Baltimore ended up getting 2 out of 3 this weekend, but that Indian starting pitching just continues to be absolutely amazing, Dan.
It has been good, and Carrasco had a little bit of a blip yesterday, but yeah, they have been great, and the bullpen has come around. They've got some additional arms there. You gotta like what you see. At least 4 out of 5 days, and even Markham gave you what you wanted the other day.
Yeah,
I was pulling for him to be taken out after 5 innings. He gave you 5 innings. He gave up 2 runs, and Tribe came back to tie that game, and you're 2-2 going into the 6th inning, and I was kind of surprised that he came back out there and immediately hung a curveball at Adam Jones, and he put it about 3/4 of the way up the bleachers, and I was thinking, it might have been better advised with I'm not even claiming hindsight, because after 5 innings, I'm saying, okay, get him out. He's given you those 5 innings that you wanted, and he's kept your team in the game, and let's move on to our bullpen. And Tito decided to go another inning with him, and it cost him, and they ended up losing that game 4-2. But even if Markham's your weak link and he keeps giving you those 5 innings, 2 runs kind of efforts, we'll take that all day.
Absolutely. And with the Indians' 11 strikeouts yesterday, they have a major league best 25 double-digit strikeout games so far this season. I mean, that's the one thing we mentioned, and Mike and I were talking about this before, is they've got the right pitching staff to have a suspect defense behind them, because they definitely get less stuff put into play, and that's what I mean. You start shoring things up defensively out there, man, and all of a sudden, getting on base becomes very crucial for teams, and those situations become more amplified because you don't get those blow-ups defensively that do allow you to kind of work around the Tribe's pitching, man. That's something to be thought of. I mean, because I'm telling you, I don't know what Urshela's going to do at the bat. That's what's got me wondering how he's going to stick this early in his career. But I believe with the glove, he's about to play some defense that people include. Hey, I didn't know you can make that play at third base. I forgot what that looks like, because he can play the hell out of some third base.
That's been his calling card really throughout his minor league career. That he's a great glove man, and if you can get the hit tool around so he can be an above average major leaguer, you're going to really have something. He's got a build, and he's still young, and pretty good sized kid, and you're going to obviously hope for some physical development as well. But you just hope he can get through this time and hold his own at the plate, because that the defense is going to be there as soon as he sort of gets the butterflies out of his stomach. The issue of the Tribe and their woes at home though continues, Jerry, and I don't know what that's about. I mean, now you've had three chances now to hit that 500 mark, and you've taken a loss each time, and each time you've come back the next day to win a game and get back to within one game. But they're going to have to win 2 in a row at some point just to get to that point, and seems like maybe they have to go on the road to do it. Who knows? Team just has not played well in front of the home crowd, and they got one of the better road records in the league and one of the worst home records in the league, and it continues to be a little bit of a head scratcher.
For sure. Missed that chance every time. They get right there to pull ahead of it, and they could have pulled within 4.5 games, I believe, or 5 games of first place yesterday. Instead, they sit 6 back. Still good position compared to where they were, but absolutely, man. And you would have liked to have seen them grab 2 out of 3 there over the weekend. Day off here today. A little bit of a rare kind of a breakup there of the homestand before the Indians get back out there. What do we got? Seattle coming up. Corey Kluber's the next one to take the mound for the Indians as this home series continues. Day off today. Kluber will be on the mound tomorrow. I think the lefty Elias faces him. Bauer's out there Wednesday, and then Thursday, you said you're going to be there. Sean Markham scheduled to take the mound for the Indians on Thursday.
Yeah, and Kluber's coming off a little bit of a down outing after 4, brilliant starts. He gave up some runs last time out, lost the game, and really after one bad inning, hung in there, kept his team in it, gave us a chance to come back. We didn't end up coming back and winning it, but after he had really a bad inning or two, he righted the ship and kept the team in the game for a while, and took a little bit of a tough loss, but I fully expect him to bounce back, and you're going to get a solid effort every time out with him. They've got Seattle at home, and then go back on the road. A little bit of a tough stretch. I think they go to Detroit after that. Am I right? And
Detroit's coming up.
Right, and that'll be a road series. I was just checking my schedule real quick here. Yeah, you got at Detroit, and then the games, the 2-2 with the Cubs, two on the road and Wrigley, and then home for 2. Then you've got Tampa Bay and Detroit coming in. So it's not really a break in the schedule, although you are hopefully catching Detroit at a bad time. They kind of broke their 8-game losing streak, won a couple of ball games over the weekend, and so they'll be laying in wait for the Indians up in Detroit here starting Friday.
Right. That's why this series here important. Seattle coming in still struggling. They are 2-8 in their last 10 games. As we saw, the Indians took 3 of 4 in Seattle from them over the last road trip. So it'd be really nice to see the Tribe take 2 out of 3, or hell, sweep this thing. Get yourself some momentum heading into Motown, because that's a big series coming up, and there's a chance to perhaps switch places in the standings with the Tigers coming up. But I look at it like the Royals series here, a second look around after the early struggles. It was a much different series with the Indians and the Royals this last time out, and that's what I hope to see most of all. But this is a chance for the Tribe to, thought they could have done it here against Baltimore, but Baltimore was able to grab 2 out of 3. You don't want to do that again. Keep your focus and take care of some business here with Seattle. They're coming in struggling, and you want to get yourself above 500 because it could be a good weekend, good clash here with Detroit, and again a chance to kind of flip places with them here in the standings.
Yeah, and Detroit has been having starting pitching problems, and we kind of anticipated that they would. How could they not? Losing Porcello and Scherzer and everybody. But they are getting Verlander back, and he's scheduled to pitch against them, I understand, on Saturday. He pitched a AAA game the other day, and he's penciled in here, at least the ESPN schedule has him as a projected starter against Carrasco on Saturday. And so we're facing Price and Verlander and Alfredo Simon in that 3-game series, and we've got Salazar, Carrasco, and Kluber going in that series. So that should be entertaining, and of course, the Tribe will be featuring their new look on the left side of the infield, and that's reason enough to tune in there just to check that out.
For sure. I have no idea why I thought that was a 4. You're right. That's a 3-game set with the I think the day off here just has my schedule off by a day all week. It's odd. Usually they don't throw.
And they had a 4-gamer out in Seattle, so that's,
usually they don't throw the off day in the middle of a homestand. Usually it comes between, the home or the road or whatever. So a little bit of a
that's right. But they're giving the team that's traveling from the West Coast a little bit of a break
chance
for a
to
travel
catch up.
day, I guess.
Yeah. Which makes sense. Absolutely makes sense. So Tribe tomorrow kicking it off with Seattle here. It was a beautiful weekend in Cleveland, and the Indians continuing to warm it up in June. But tomorrow you got the Indians, you've got the Cavs same time. Well, about 2 hours. Well, the Indians will be about in the 7th inning stretch when the Cavs are getting ready to tip that one off tomorrow. But between Tuesday and Thursday, with all the stuff going on, this is going to be one fun week and one fun atmosphere in downtown Cleveland the next 72 hours or so.
Yeah. Now, what is tip-off time tomorrow, Jerry? Is
9
it 9
p.m.
o'clock or is it
9? 9-10 is tomorrow. The only one that was 8 is the weekend one. They've got the weekday games are all 9-10 tip-offs.
Interesting. Yeah, so they've got the Tribe at 7 o'clock and the Seattle in town, Kluber on the mound, and then the big game across Gateway Plaza there. I think I might just have to go up there just to soak in the environment. Buy a $13 ticket and hang out in the corner for the Tribe game, and then just soak in the excitement next door.
You got to think that the Indians will throw the Cavs game on the big on the jumbo scoreboard there after the game's over, and the fans could sit there and because that would be a raucous atmosphere if you basically after the Tribe game the Jake turns into a giant watch party next door to the Q. That would be a hell of an atmosphere there as well.
Yeah, that would be fun. I'm sure they've, kicked the idea around. I have no idea. I've not heard anything about them trying to do that, but, or even if they could make that happen.
I don't know if they
with,
could. I don't know if you
TV.
could do that, but legally, maybe you couldn't do that. I don't know.
Yeah, I was thinking about that with the TV rights and all that stuff, although certainly the Cavs had no trouble hosting their watch parties in their arena for the road game, so don't know how that plays out legally. But, yeah, that would be a heck of an idea.
Dan, they stick a screen outside between the Q and the Jake and watch the games out in the lobby anyway, So I'm pretty sure it's okay. I don't know. I mean, if they can watch it on the TVs in the corner bar, you would think that they could just put it up on the scoreboard because that would be a heck of an environment. Either way, that crowd's going to be coming out and the other one will be coming in. There's going to be probably 50,000-ish fans or so 50,000 fans downtown. Man, it's going to be great. Cannot wait. And, man, I'm feeling good, Dan. How are you feeling heading into this week, man?
Oh, I'm with it. I think that the Cavs are going to win both of these games. A lot of people are saying, well, we're going to split here and we're going to go back and
Nope.
Game 5 we'll be back to a 3-game series after these 4, but I don't know. I've just seen that the Warriors have not been a great road team. We beat them handily when they came here later in the season. Won that game by 11, 12, 13 points, something like that. It really wasn't all that competitive. We kind of just dominated them. And I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility at all to see the Cavs win both of these home games and grab this thing by the throat. So certainly, if they don't, it won't be because the crowd wasn't crazy enough. Because I have a feeling this is going to be a wild environment downtown there.
Damn right. Can't wait. You and I on Wednesday will be able to talk about it because we will be sleepy-eyed and groggy and coming off of another late night, and it doesn't matter. We'll be coming off a Cavs victory, and we're going to talk about it. We'll talk about the Mariners too, but you and I will break down Game 3 when we do this on Wednesday.
Sounds great, Jerry. Look forward to it. Talk to you then.
You got it. My man, Dan Wismar from the Cleveland Fan, from EverybodyHatesCleveland.com. He'll be back here on Wednesday. We're going to take the final break, and we'll be back here in just a moment. Do not go anywhere. We'll come back. We'll talk about the news of the weekend. We'll set it up for tomorrow. Gladiators. American Pharaoh wins the Triple Crown. We'll put an end of the day exclamation point on it. Set the stage for tomorrow. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back wrapping it up here on The Fix.
To the Sports Fix. If you want to be my lover.
Guys, want to take just a second as we head into this break and remind you about the official business printing source of the Sports Fix, our friends at Signs and Ship. Signs and Ship, I'm telling you, Chris and Pam, they've taken care of me since day one, and they can do the same for you. Whether you're a small business that's already been established and you're looking to grow to that next level and expand your business, or perhaps you've got an idea that you just know is going to be a great business and you need to figure out how to brand it and how to promote it and put it out there, Signs and Ship is the place for you. If you need a logo, they can create one for you. They have a fantastic graphic designer. Business cards, signs, banners, yard signs, mobile advertising, anything you can think of that you need to promote your business, they've got it at Signs and Ship. The best thing about them, too, is each of their locations, whether it's the home base here in Elyria, Ohio that I work with, or their spots in Virginia, Florida, and Pennsylvania, it's all local sourced. Very important to me because we all understand that small business is the lifeblood of the community. So check them out, signsandship.com, or call Chris and Pam today, 440-323-6060, the home office in Elyria, Ohio. Signs and Ship, quality printing at affordable prices.
Portions of the Sports Fix brought to you by Fantasy Jocks. Visit fantasyjocks.com, your fantasy sports superstore. Championship belts, rings, trophies, and more. Fantasy sports lovers, you put so much time, hard work, and effort into playing week to week that it quickly stops being a fantasy and starts getting real. Real time spent making real decisions, creating real victory.
I'm the greatest man in the world!
And when the smoke clears, you want to show off those victories with a real prize.
I mean, a really real prize.
Nobody does that like Fantasy Jocks. The crew over at Fantasy Jocks have beautiful, high-quality, and heavy-duty championship belts, rings, trophies, and so much more for all your fantasy sports needs.
The trophy's 12 feet high, and it is glorious!
Football, baseball, hoops, you name it, they have it. Plus, they have awesome draft kits and party supplies to make all your preseason activities the envy of everyone. If your league needs a ring, belt, or trophy, or you want to upgrade what you already have, there's literally only one place to go. If you're going to be a fantasy jock, do it right.
It's mine, the most magnificent belt ever created, and it's mine.
With America's fantasy sports superstore, fantasyjocks.com.
In baseball, miracles can happen when a team works together.
2 out, bottom of the ninth, down to their last strike.
The same is true in the fight against cancer. That's why MLB has teamed up with Stand Up to Cancer. Because we believe that when we all stand up together,
41,000 on their feet,
we can make cancer history.
Now everybody's standing.
What a buzz in this building.
This is beyond a dream. Stand up with MLB at standuptocancer.org.
The Sports Fix is now available every day on the world's largest internet radio service, iHeartRadio. Download the free iHeartRadio app, subscribe to the show, and get your fix.
This is the Sports Fix. What is your name?
I'm the dude. So that's what you call me, you know? That or his dudeness or duder or, El Duderino if you're not into the whole brevity thing.
Dude, what do you want?
Well, it's this rug I have. It really tied the room together.
We are not a show to be swept under the rug. We are a show to be heard.
It's the Sports Fix.
Welcome back to the Sports Fix, you guys, as we wrap things up. Thanks to Dan Wismar. Great extended chat there as we're talking on the outcome, the backside of the Cleveland Cavaliers. Just the greatest game in the history of the Cavs. For those of you that missed it, well, we've been talking about it for the last 2 hours. They tie the NBA Finals, grab momentum, grab home court advantage, and they come home tomorrow, Tuesday night, here at the Q will be the scene for Game 3, and what a wild scene it is going to be. Here, we'll talk about it, of course, and preview it, and do all of that stuff, you guys, as we get rolling through the week. Thanks for being back with us. J-Rocc here as we continue on with the show. Looking ahead, there's nothing to look ahead to tonight. The Cavs are off tonight. The Indians off tonight, day off before they pick back up that homestand with the final 3 and the Seattle Mariners coming up here. That's tomorrow. We just mentioned it with Dan. Corey Kluber takes the mound for that. So enjoy a relaxing night tonight. After last night, you need it because they kept you going wire to wire last night as well. Speaking of keeping it going, over the weekend, Gladiators rolling on, getting off the schneid. They needed a victory to break the losing streak they were on, and they snap it there as they got a couple of defensive touchdowns in the second half. They went to Vegas, took a 63-44 road victory against the Las Vegas Outlaws. They improved to 6-5 on the season, get themselves back over 500 as the Gladiators looking to follow up on last season's Arena Bowl run here. They sit 6-5 in second place in the division. Philadelphia out to a red hot. They look like the Gladiators last year, out to a 10-1 start on the season so far. Gladiators second of a back-to-back on the road coming up Friday. They've got the New Orleans Voodoo, and we're going to try to get the voice of the Gladiators, Doug Plagans, in on the conversation with us later this week. But good job by the Gladiators. They win 63-44 against Las Vegas. Speaking of win, American Pharoah won the Triple Crown, became the first horse to win all 3 of the Triple Crown races since 1978 when Affirmed won the Triple Crown, and $315,000 unclaimed today from the Belmont race when they people bought $2 American Pharoah to win tickets, which paid $3.50. So basically you made $1.50 on your bet. However, nearly 100,000 of them, 90,237, were not claimed over the weekend. So if somebody went around and gathered all of those that were just tossed aside, you would have over $250,000. You'd have 315,000 plus in little $2 tickets. Yeah, I guess a lot of people, clearly, thousands of people just tossed them aside, figured maybe the $1.50 wasn't worth the time of taking it back up to the window and cashing it in. I don't know, but 90,000+ people did not cash it in. As I said, over $315,000 sitting there unclaimed. Some people have gone out and collected a bunch of them. I see here on eBay there's uncashed tickets. Some people are auctioning them off. One person's got a group of 500 of them together. Another one's got a group of 150 of them. So some people clearly did what we talked about. But anyways, American Pharoah did what many horses have tried to do since 78 and won the Triple Crown over the weekend. Speaking of winning and money, some basketball players are involved in the biggest basketball tournament going. It's called the basketball tournament. It's so big that over 40 former NBA players have got their self teams in this. Nate Robinson, Brian Scalabrine from Boston, Big Red there, Hoyce Wright, lots of guys here. 42 former NBA players in this thing. There's a $1 million payoff. 97 teams entered in this 5-on-5 tournament. Some of the best non-professional players in the country. As I said, over 40 former NBA players. It is a very high-level semi-pro basketball tournament here. Many college programs have teams. The Florida Gators have a team with several former NBA players representing them. Many different teams putting groups out here. It's a lot of fun if you're a basketball guy, but $1 million on the line there. That sounds like the script from a movie. Remember the old Hoop It Up tournaments? I did a couple of those way back. I'm talking when I was 17, 18 years old. Man, they used to bring those to the flats every year. You put together your 3-on-3 team, you enter your couple $100, and you get out there and you play the 3-on-3 tournament. I remember the one year we actually won, I think, our first 2 games before we were eliminated in the it wasn't even the quarter. It was, these things had so many teams that you had to win like 8, so I don't even think it was like quarterfinals. It was just an early round match. But those things used to be fun. I don't think they even have those anymore. But that was for a few $1,000s. This one here for $1 million. And actually a very popular, it just started last year. It was a $500,000 prize, 55 teams. So much interest in this thing that it nearly doubled the number of teams and the prize money involved. July 10th, 11th, and 12th, this 3-day tournament in 4 different locations around the country. Again, some of the best playground and semi-pro in college, and obviously college players that don't have eligibility left, because you can't play in this if you do, and over 40 former NBA players balling it up to see who's going to win $1 million in the basketball tournament. See what else is going on. That's all about it for today. So you know what, guys? I think we're going to call it a day. I want to thank you guys for being with us. Bruce and the phones early. My man Dan Wismar for joining us. Tomorrow, Jeff Gorman being on the conversation. We'll continue. We will preview the upcoming series for the Indians and the Seattle Mariners, as well as get you all set right up till tip-off, baby, for the Cavaliers. Game 3 as the NBA Finals descend upon Cleveland. And if you take a look at the wraps around the queue, you can see they've got that place looking baller set up for the eyes of the basketball and sports world to come on Cleveland tomorrow. So we're going to talk about it. Sports Fix coming your way. Guys, until then, do what you do. We'll do what we do, and then we'll meet back, do it at channel live at noon right here across the sea, wherever you're at, Cleveland, beyond. Do you together right here tomorrow on the Sports.
Gotta make sure the lights on. Just a mistake on the lake to you, but this is my own. Headed it on my own. That I represent that. Homie, I'm from Cleveland. I will tell the president that. Hardest, yeah, we been there. Made some of the greats here. Midwest best. This is MGK's, yeah. Shouts out to St. Clair. Uptown, yes, y'all. Heading to the flex. Get it popping up with Steph Flaws. Old State monster. This the home of King James. We are not the empire, but this is where the kings play. Cleveland, let's go.
All city, blue lights separate the ground from the gritty. Red